I am Penelope, author of epic fantasy and paranormal romance, and welcome to my imaginary friends, a look behind the scenes of an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello friends, today is Saturday, July 24th, 2021, and this is episode 130 of My Imaginary Friends. I'm Leslie. So this week's best thing is I got the edits back for the heist novel, The Monsters We Defy. I had a wonderful conversation with my editor, Nivea Evans, at Orbit, and she gave the edits to me like on our call, as opposed to normally you would get an edit letter. And she was like, I want to do something a little bit different. And I was like, yeah, I'm here for it. So I took a bunch of notes and like 3 pages of notes on the manuscript. But it was really good feedback. I didn't actually disagree with anything. A lot of times when you get an edit letter, you know, there's a process, and I always kind of advise newer writers who've never been edited this, like whether it's, you know, a freelance editor that you've hired or you're acquiring editor at a traditional publisher. Edit letters are often long. I get like 8-page editorial letters. That's not unusual, and they're often painful. You know, like you have, you know, especially the first few ones when you think that or maybe just the first one, like when you don't know what to expect and you think you've done this book and it's just going to need some light, some dusting, polish the edges, just brush a few crumbs off of it, and you get an 8-page letter back and you cry. And I'm like, it's okay to cry. It's pretty normal. And then maybe have some not so nice feelings about your editor, and like also very normal. You go through the stages of grief, denial, anger. I don't know all the rest of them, but I'm sure that you go through them all. And then in a day or two, you read it again and you're like, oh, yes, she's right. I need to change all of those things. Or like 85-90% of those things. And that's the normal like stage. This time I didn't really have that. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. I should have done that. And okay, all right, yeah, no, I get that. I see where you're coming from. It was very interesting. So that was earlier in the week. I want to say like Tuesday or Wednesday. And I took the notes, I saved them, I backed them up so I wouldn't lose them, and printed them out, and then did not look at them for the rest of the week. This week's best thing is that I finished Savage City, which is what I did the rest of the week. I really finished it. It's gone. I sent it to my editor. I sent it to the beta readers. So it is out of my hands for the next month or so. So I can completely focus on the other things that I'm working on, including the edits for Monsters. And I'm really excited about that. Savage City, the journey of that book, I've talked about it before. It was a very long time coming. 5 years I've been working on that, on and off, mostly off. But I was actually reviewing, because I'm doing the read-along for Cry of Metal and Bone on Instagram. And so I was looking through my old notebooks, and I was looking through these old videos. I was keeping a video diary from like 2017 to 2019, and it predated the podcast and then overlapped a little. And I stopped it because when I'm like recording these videos, I can't remember. I was having a hard time remembering whether I said that on the video diary or whether I'd already said it on the podcast. And my memory is bad enough already that I try not to, like, I know there's going to be duplication. I'm going to talk about the same thing sometimes and probably tell the same stories. But I tried to minimize that as much as humanly possible with the state of my memory. And it was just very difficult to do when I was recording the private videos and then the public videos. But I had started the video diary just so I could have a record of what I was thinking about. I had tried to do it on text, like via writing, via typing words. But after hours of writing, I was just like, I didn't want to write anymore. I needed to give my wrists a break. So I was reviewing some of those, looking for the ones that I had recorded when I was writing Cry of Metal and Bone. And I didn't listen to all of them, but I listened to several of them. So it was a service that is no longer in existence called Mindlonger. And it was really helpful that I would just go online, I would record max 5 minutes of video, and my thoughts, my hopes, my fears, my frustrations, and some of the stuff that I can't tell you guys because it's just not for public consumption, I could say in my video diaries. And I was listening back on those, and some of the changes that Savage City has gone through is a lot. It's been a long journey. So being able to say that the manuscript this version of it is done, it's off to an editor, it's off to people who can read it and give me feedback, is the whole thing just such a milestone. And I am deeply, deeply grateful to have gotten there. And I was reading over the story for the final time in this draft and just loving it. Like there's some things that I'm like, I'm not sure about this, but I'll let, my editor, the readers tell me what they think about that. But I got to the end and I was just like, my heart was so full. And it's just a wonderful feeling to have worked for so long and so hard on the story that I do really love the story. And I like where it has ended up, even if it's not where I intended in all the ways. So yeah, another milestone. Also, I have the idea for the second Orbit book. So it was a 2-book contract, 2 standalones. Had no idea what book 2 was going to be. I had some other ideas at first that I think are still good ideas for the future, but this next book is due next June. And I just didn't feel like with the other projects, I had enough mental time to devote to something completely brand spanking new, which is what this other idea was. So the idea that I am planning for is another old idea, another unfinished manuscript that I have been working on for a couple of years, like that has been in existence for a couple of years. Like every so often I'll kind of look at it again, think about it again. I have worked on it again here and there. Not quite like Savage City, not quite as much like baggage and changes, but like kind of close. Like anything that I've had unfinished that I've been thinking about for years is going to have a little bit, I guess it's baggage, a little bit of history, it's like it's got some wrinkles on it. This is a book that I think it was in 2017, I commissioned a cover for. I paid a lot of money for that cover. It's a gorgeous cover. I love it, but I'm not going to be able to use it because obviously if I'm going to get to Orbit, then I'm not going to use that. And even if I had self-published it, I'm changing the title. I don't know what the title is going to be, and the story is just going to be different. But my heart weeps for this cover that is so gorgeous that I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to use it again. I can always get the cover designer to change the words on the title for some future thing. But for now, it is a new old idea radically being changed. I'm changing the time period of it. And so I'm starting idea generation. I have not given it a notebook yet. I just have some notes in a text file in my head. But I do need to assign a notebook, get a folder for it. That's like the beginning of my process for starting a new book. And yeah, not much to say about it yet, but it is a paranormal thriller. It started out as YA way back in the day, and it's not going to be YA anymore. I'm going to age the main character up a little bit, but I am excited about it. Speaking of starting new things, I'm going to link to Sarah Cannon's Heart Breathings video where she does a whole video on her process of starting the 12th book in her series. It's the last book in her series. I forget the name of it now. It used to be the Peachville Demons series. And I read the first 6 books like years ago. And she took a lot of time off in between books for personal reasons. And she talks about that in the video. But her process for starting a new book is just very her. Like, so Sarah Cannon, she writes paranormal, YA, and other things too. And she has this Heart Breathings channel because she's a big planner. She's like into the whole planners, washi tape, all those things. I talk about her a lot because she does the HB90 quarterly planning method. And so she's very into aesthetics and like pretty things and pretty tape and making things pretty good. That keeps her interest up in it. So she has this very elaborate routine of creating, custom notebooks and planners and decorating everything and things that I just don't have the patience for, but I appreciate watching her videos on them. So I will link to that. So for me, the process is to start a new notebook. I use the Moleskine Kai journals, different sizes. This is like the big one. I usually put stickers on them, whatever stickers I happen to have around. And then I get a folder to put all the worksheets and papers that I print out, notes, synopses in them. These are just like, I use Staples folders, the sort of poly plasticky ones. I'd been using more of the paper folders before, but they get pretty raggedy pretty early. So folder, notebook, start. That's it. No decorations except for the stickers. And I add more stickers as I go through the process. So a notebook might end up looking, very sticker filled. Lots of sticky note tabs for various things I need to go back to in the notes. I create text files a lot of times. So I'll go back and forth between writing notes by hand and writing notes in BB Edit, which is a plain text editor that I use. So I don't have to think about formatting in Word, bold, italics, bullets. That's too much for me. I just want a text file. That's my process. And I go back and forth, and yeah. So I kind of don't want to start much, but I've been having ideas. I don't want to start because I'm still working on 3 other things at the same time. So we've got the edits back for the Monsters We Defy. Edits for Savage City will come back in August, and I'm still doing the plot for the 1830 story. That should be out of my hair this week. I have a good outline. I'll be tweaking it. I don't know if you can hear Sherman snoring. Sorry if you can. He's noisy today. So I've got this outline. I've been tweaking it, and I'm going to send that back for feedback this week. So after that, I will focus most of my attention on the Monsters We Defy, and then starting the process of the idea gathering, making some notes. I don't really want to commit myself and my brain to this 4th thing until something is done, until Monsters is done, and probably Savage City is done, which will be within the next couple of months. So yeah, that's what's happening right now. So far, things have been going really well, I guess. This is an up period. We'll enjoy it while it lasts, because I know how fleeting they are. But at this point in the process, I'm not in the midpoint or at the end of any manuscript, and so yes, life is good. I'm happy. A plotting thing that has been helping me as I plot this 1830 story is from the Plot Whisperer book. And I had used it in Savage City, and I was like, oh, this is good. So I basically am mind mapping the themes. So creating just a chart where I list the themes all around and put them in circles. And then in the middle, once I've kind of written down everything I think is a theme, then I kind of come up with a thematic statement of the book. So some of the things on this mind map are friendship, debt, style versus substance, jealousy, greed versus generosity, isolation, free will. And so the thematic statement for this new story is that community and personal connections can overcome obstacles. And that's sort of my grounding statement. I'm going to put that on a note card and put it in the front of my note card box for this book. And so when I get stuck on something, having that theme is helpful so that I can make sure everything really is leading back to that and to the main character arc, which I'll also put probably on an index card. And that process really did help in Savage City. And as I'm working on the plot and trying to figure out, okay, exactly what happens, what are the pieces, putting this puzzle together, making sure that I'm clear on my thematic statement as a grounding device is really useful. And I like that exercise. And so, yeah, incorporating more and more into my process. The other thing that's really helpful in plotting is this quote that I have on an index card from Lisa Crone from the book Story Genius. And it says, "It's the constant laser beam focus on your protagonist's story-specific inner struggle that will keep you from allowing surface storylines to hijack the story you're telling." And I've added this to my pile of resource note cards that I keep front and center, because that helped in Savage City a lot too, and in this story, So I want to, when you have these possibilities, anything could happen in the story and you're plotting it and you're like, well, how do I narrow it down? How do I keep it grounded? Laser beam focus on the protagonist's story-specific inner struggle and also the theme. And those two things should be connected. They're kind of the same thing. So I just had breakthrough on this plotting that happened this week. I turned the corner and everything started falling together. I still do have one part of it, one thread that I'm still working on this week, but yes, the goal is to get it complete in the next 3 days and sent on its way. I'm subscribed to a newsletter from the Kristen Nelson agency. literary agents. And there was an interesting article that came, I think, this week. And it's a blog post that I will link to, When the Author Dream is No Longer the Dream by Kristen Nelson. And it's sort of just like about authors who stop authoring. I don't know if they stop writing, but they stop writing for publication. And it's something that I don't think people talk about enough. My agent, Sarah Megabo, she has a certain number of clients that she has in mind that she wants to be her stable, for lack of a better term. And one time I asked her, I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot. I think her number was like 50. And she's like, well, not everybody is as prolific as other people. Some people stop writing. I've got several clients who they had that book and then they're not really doing anything. And maybe they'll come back in 5 years and they'll have something. But so having, a roster of 50 clients is not like every day it's 50, 50 people I'm dealing with. And sometimes people go away and don't come back, And so this article is just like some of the reasons why authors stop pursuing publication. Some are one book authors. Some people just get burnt out on it. Some people have great success and know that they're not going to match that again, which is kind of sad. And I think that Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that in Big Magic because, she had Eat, Pray, Love, and she knows that she's never going to have another book that big. And I didn't listen to all of Big Magic. I listened to the beginning of the audiobook, but she talks about that. And I think that's, that's real, like one-hit wonders. A lot of singers who are one-hit wonders kept singing. I think they knew they were never going to get as big, but sometimes I'm sure that they stopped and some of them kept going and they're just doing their thing. So sometimes your career runs its course and you stop. Some people are uncomfortable in the spotlight. Some people are uncomfortable with the industry. In the article, she talks about there are, authors of color who just get tired of all of the foolishness. And the changes that have been happening in the industry, especially over the past 5 years, are just too little too late. Some people get old. Some people, life gets in the way. They have other things they want to do. And all of those, of course, are valid. Like, there's nothing to say that you have to pursue this as a full-time career. Some people just really like their jobs and don't want to be a full-time author. And they're happy with a book whenever it comes, whenever they're able to have one. And, other people want more. They want to quit their jobs. They want to do this full-time. So, yeah, I just think that it's something people should talk about more because so much of my focus is on authoring and publishing and all of that. But when I was looking back at those videos and some of them, I was trying not to be too depressing, but sometimes I was recording when I was just in a bad place. And there was one where it's just like, why am I doing this? I was very stressed. I was sick. I was on the verge of burnout. Those deadlines that I was under were very difficult. Writing books as large and as complicated as I was on those deadlines with work was very difficult at times. And, I was watching this video. I was just like, I'm wondering if this is worth it. This dream that I've had. At what point do I determine that it's not? And, I got through that and I'm still excited to be here and tell stories and write and be in the publishing industry with the ups and downs. But there might come a time when I decide that it's not worth it. And when I decide that the toll is too great, or maybe I stop having things to say. I mean, I can't imagine that. I have such a long list of potential book ideas and with more coming all the time. If I get too tired with traditional publishing, I'm very happy to self-publish, but self-publishing is difficult and expensive. And if it becomes not worth it, if you're not making enough money to make it worth it, to make the expense worth it, then yeah, there's all kinds of reasons why you would want to stop. So I don't know, it could happen. I feel very positive and up now, as I said before, but you've been here for a while, that there are moods. It goes up and down. It's a pendulum. So yeah, I thought that was just something important to talk about and to consider. It's like some people stop and I think it's sad. I was actually looking up, every couple of years, I look up Kachi Millet, who is an author who wrote one of my favorite books, The Sea of Tranquility. It's a YA book. It's fantastic. Colleen Hoover mentioned it, which it got me thinking about it again when someone asked her about her favorite books. And maybe she's writing under a pen name somewhere. People do that. Or maybe she just had one book in her and that was it. Or maybe in 10 years she'll come out with her second book. I don't know. So I check on her every now and then. And it's sad to me if she has stopped, because that book is literally one of my favorite things ever. And I don't know her. I don't know what her reasons are. She disappeared from social media a few years ago. I hope she's okay and still alive and healthy and all that, but she could have not be, who knows? So yeah, it's sad when a favorite author stops writing. Sometimes they disappear into a new pen name. That happened with another author, which we found out oh, wait, she's been writing this whole time, just a different genre and a different pen name. And lots of reasons, lots of things happen to people. So I think it's sad, but everyone has to do what they have to do. If I get to the point where it's not working for me anymore and I need to stop, then I think that will still be sad. But if it's what I need to do, then I don't know. Bittersweet. And also, the Olympics have started. I am not a fan of the Olympics. I don't generally watch them. Although this year's the first year that they have rock climbing. So I probably will watch some of the climbing competition. Occasionally I watch gymnastics, and there's an all-black female gymnastics team, so I might try to watch that if I remember. In the Winter Olympics, occasionally I'll watch ice skating, but I'm not really into sports. Sports ball. I don't care. But I do like watching people climb, so that might be a thing that happens if I bring myself to figure out when, what days and times that they're airing those things. But I know a lot of people are super excited about the Olympics, and yay, go USA, go whatever country you're from. And that's it for me for this week. Goals: get this plot for this 1830 story done, and get my head in the game to start this revision for The Monsters We Defy. I've got about 8 weeks for it, and that seems like plenty of time. I say that now. I do have a lot to think about, and so I haven't started thinking about it yet, so I'll talk about that next week. And then I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. For episode show notes and to sign up for the Footnotes newsletter and get the show notes in your inbox, go to myimaginaryfriendsshow.com. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch the video episodes on YouTube. My Imaginary Friends is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. For more fantastic podcasts, go to frolic.media/podcasts. And if you're still here listening, I decided to tack on an example of one of those video diary posts so that you can hear me be very honest about some difficult things I was dealing with and thinking about, and that I think a lot of people, most authors, most people, most artists do. So here's a few minutes from my video diary from April 16th, 2018. So I've been having a lot of anxiety about the book launch, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Summer Stone launches. And I don't know. I think it's normal to have, to be anxious about something big that's happening in your life. And some of it has to do with kind of seeing other books that are launching around the same time or have been, have launched. And honestly, some of it is kind of jealousy about, bigger launches, people who are getting more promotion, publicity, and stuff. And, people who got bigger advances, so I know that they're getting bigger pushes because there's more of an urge of whatever their publisher is to make their money back. And so, you advertise a big 6-figure advance, then I think there's more investment. They're probably spending more money, or they are spending more money and time and resources. And so there's some of that going on. And I'm just trying to deal with it. But it's kind of bleeding into sleep. And some of it is also just fear. Okay, regardless of promotion, push, whatever, because my book, I do have a publicist, and some people don't even have that. Like I have a lot of things that I know other authors don't get all the time. So there's an element of gratitude that I'm trying to, use to fight that sort of comparisonitis, as Joanna Penn calls it, which always creeps in. Like you're always, because most of my feeds are authors and book related, you're seeing, oh, so-and-so got a review here, or they're doing these blog posts, or they're doing this tour, or they're doing that, this and that. And I feel like I'm not really doing anything. I'm going to be doing some blog posts, but, or they're getting a pre-order campaign, like a pre-order contest thing. So there's all kinds of things going on in my head, and some of it's just fear. Like, okay, so I am getting some things. Is it going to be enough? Is the book going to sell? Is it going to earn up my advance eventually? Hopefully sooner rather than later, hopefully at all. And will all the books come out? I still have this thing in my head, like, okay, something will happen and then they'll cancel it. So all the books won't come out, when they bought 4 books. And, there's just a lot of things happening. So it's a lot of heaviness on my heart about it. Even as I'm excited, it's like I don't want to be too excited because I don't want to be disappointed if it doesn't work out. And there's always this sort of fear that is there that, don't expect too much so that you won't get disappointed. And that's just all just real, and I'm just trying to figure out how to deal with it. I'm trying to deal with the jealousy with gratitude because I think that's the best way forward. And that comparisonitis, that wondering, kind of looking at what other people have going on is not helpful. It's helpful to me in terms of getting ideas for things I can do and like strategies and marketing techniques, but it's not helpful in terms of just my well-being. I also have like these services that tell me when people are talking about the book, like mention.com and Awario. Right now I have both because they're overlapping, but I'm canceling one. And so I'm seeing, sometimes I'll see the reviews, like just the headlines, and I'll see the stars, and I see a lot of 3 stars, which kind of is like, oh. I do see 5 stars too. I've only ever seen 1 star, but it seems like I'm seeing like 3s and some 5s. It's not as many 4s that I see. And I looked at Goodreads like a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to get to that. But so sometimes that gets me down, even though I see a lot of people who really, really love the book and who really, are advocating for it. So I just have to balance it in my head and not focus on the negative, which is difficult, and try to come to some sort of calm place where, because Jared was like, well, what do those people have to do with you? And I was like, that's true. They don't have anything to do with me. They don't have anything to do with my book. Whatever their book gets, I have to stop feeling like it takes away. It doesn't. I know it doesn't take away, but I don't know. So that's what's going on. That's how I've been feeling, and how I'm trying to work through it.